Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar series today on transition to adulthood. And of course, this is geared for family trainings. My name is Rochelle Swanson-Holm, and I'll be helping facilitate today's webinar. And today's webinar is called Legal and Financial Rules of the Road, Applying for Social Security. I want to thank our sponsors today, which is Child Health Specialty Clinics and the Iowa Regional Autism Assistance Program, both part of the University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital. I'd also like to thank Iowa Developmental Disabilities Council and Iowa's University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. I'd like to kind of go over some of the logistics today so you're familiar with those as you're listening to our speaker today. As you can see here, you should be able to access the question box in the little box to your right of your screen, and you should see a small box with an arrow, and that way you can pull the box up onto your screen, and there you'll see a variety of things that you can select, including a question box. So what we'd like you to do is, as we progress through the presentation, please enter your questions right in that question box. And we'll make every effort to answer those throughout the webinar. And then, of course, we're going to ask our speaker, Mr. Rivares, to go ahead and take about 10 minutes at the end of the session to go ahead and answer the questions that you've placed in there. There is a chat box, but we'd like you to use that just strictly for technical questions for the producers behind the scenes. So please, if you're having any difficulty with your audio or your visual, please go ahead and type something in the chat box, and they will try to help you as they are able. Okay, there are some handouts today. There's one handout, and there is a handout tab, and you should be able to see that as well. And that's right under the question box. So you should be able to access the handout, download it, and save it to your computer. So now we'll go ahead and we'll just kind of want to show you, oh, I guess we're going to go right into the speaker, so that's fine. I'll do a few more announcements following the session, but I do want to make a special introduction to our speaker today, Mr. Frank A. Viveras. He's the proprietor of a firm in Cedar Rapids that has been providing estate planning services to people with disabilities and their families since 1990. His office assists consumers with Social Security disability claims, the community waiver applications, assistance with Medicaid and Medicare concerns, spend down strategies, and his office is an approved ticket to work provider. Frank pioneered special needs planning almost 30 years ago, and he wrote Iowa Law 1C634A, Protecting Special Needs Trusts for people with disabilities. He also helped to amend the IC 6332C2, which deals with self-settled trusts. Right. Frank's programs provides attendees with information regarding estate planning for your child's future, special needs trusts, ABLE accounts, applying for Social Security disability, and more. And we're going to have a second part of Frank's presentation next week. This afternoon, Frank is going to present his program on applying for Social Security disability. Frank has served on many boards and is currently a board member of the Iowa Brain Injury Council and Discovery Learning. So we really want to thank Frank for providing his expertise today, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it right on over to you, Frank.
Okay, thank you very much for that kind introduction. I'm very happy to be here. Over the last 30 years of working with people who have disabilities, I learned that parents who have a child with a disability must learn about things that parents of a typical child never have to learn about. They learn about things such as guardianships, conservatorship, waiver services, resource limits, income guidelines, spend down strategies, SSI, SSDI. What's the difference? I call this unnatural language. And beyond this, families often get fragmented information from other parents who may have a well purpose in providing that information, but it's not completely accurate. What I'm going to do today is explain through this educational seminar through the Stead Family Hospital the difference between Social Security SSI and SSDI and how to apply for the benefits. So, can you see this?
We can see it, Frank, but your screen is not advancing.
Oh, okay, I'll just do this. Yeah. Let me see. Should advance. There we go.
There you go.
All right. So this presentation is rudimentary and contains general information about Social Security disability process. Things change. This is not all inclusive. As a matter of fact, when I put this presentation together, we have a change in the Social Security payments that have gone into effect January 1st called the COLA, cost of living adjustment, which is a 1.3% increase in payments this year, and that affects eligibility for other programs related to the Social Security system. So we've had a change. However, we're going to base this program on the rules and the numbers that are currently in effect up until January 1st. So this program, we're going to explain the four-part Social Security entitlement and the difference between SSI and SSDI. I want to help you understand the Social Security goes about determining if you are disabled, when and how to apply for benefits, Social Security's 5 sequential steps to determine if you are disabled, and then what to do if you are turned down and how to proceed to each level. So let's start by talking about the four-part individual entitlement system under Social Security. And this is interesting because a lot of the programs and services that are provided to an individual who has a disability sort of follows the methodology for eligibility based on the Social Security entitlement. Now, this is going to be rudimentary, as I already mentioned. The Social Security entitlement was signed into law in 1935 by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and that entitlement, called Title II of the Social Security Act, way back then created this trust fund that held sacred money for wage earners, people that work and paid into the system. That's not the way it works now necessarily, but that's the way it began. Now, irrespective if you are receiving any Social Security retirement, if you are age 65 or older, there is a healthcare component called Medicare Title 18. Now, how do these work? If you're an individual working, you receive your paycheck from your employer. Your employer made a FICA deduction from your gross payments, matches that, sends it up to Baltimore, Maryland, and then eventually when you retire at a given age, based on your earnings credit, the age at which you retire, you receive an income from Title II Social Security. And if you're 65 years and older, you receive your health care component, Medicare. In 1956, the government realized that, hey, there are people that work, pay into the system, but they cannot keep the pace and persistence to get to retirement age 66 or 67. So they amended Title II and created a couple of things. Number one, they created Social Security disability income for a wage earner that is insured under the program. And they opened up another window of opportunity for planning for children who have a disability so that they can eventually qualify on their parents' earnings record if the child has been found disabled prior to age 22. Now, I work with a lot of families that have children under the age of 18, and these children have not had a lot of work experience. Rather than overlook those individuals, the government created another income stream called Supplemental Security Income. People refer to it as SSI, Title 16, and that pays a monthly payment to an individual found to be disabled that is not insured under the Social Security entitlement Title II or Medicare Title 18. In Iowa, we are a 1634 state, which means that if an individual receives any SSI payment whatsoever, they also receive Medicaid, which is the big ticket item for a person who has a disability. Now, the Social Security disability income payment can be as high as $3,011 per month. The payment for an individual receiving payments from Title 16 SSI is $783 a month. Once the person is receiving the SSI and they're eligible for Medicaid, a couple of things go into play. The rules look at resource levels, and an individual is limited to the amount of money that they can have, no more than $2,000. If they go over that $2,000 resource level, they lose their benefits, SSI and Medicaid, and we don't want that to happen. So let's fast forward. When and how should I apply for disability? And I'm going to cover a critical term at the onset. Social Security defines a disability as the inability of a person to produce substantial gainful activity. Well, what is that? That's another unnatural language. Substantial gainful activity simply means that in 2020, you cannot earn more than $1,260 of gross income per month in any occupation in the national economy. And you cannot work 80 hours per month. In 2019, the threshold limit was 1,220. January 1st of 2021, the threshold income will increase to 1,310. Substantial gainful activity for blind individuals is increased, and that amount is 2,110. Now, you apply for benefits when you've been out of work due to your disability conditions for 12 months, you are not presently working, or if you expect not to work for at least 12 months due to your disability, or you are working but you're earning less than the $1,260 per month figure. You can also apply if your medical condition is expected to result in death. If you are turning age 18, you should contact the Social Security office in the month following your 18th birthday to start the process. And this will establish what we call the protective filing date. And the protective filing date means that that is the date, if you are found disabled, that Social Security will go back to in order to pay you benefits. And you should do this even if you were receiving benefits prior to age 18, because Social Security will require that another application must be completed in order to be considered as an adult. And do this as soon as possible to expedite the consideration process. These are the contact numbers, and on your handouts that were developed and dispersed, there are these listings here. And this is just a random sample of the offices. You can apply online. And you can also contact the national number, Social Security toll-free number, which I recommend you not do. I recommend you go directly to your local office. People will try sometimes to start the process online. They have a little trouble doing that. And I understand, because we're working with a government website, and if you put in a period or a comma that's not supposed to go in there, it can cause some havoc. So what I recommend, contact the local office in your locale, your jurisdiction, and arrange a phone interview with a claims representative who will call you at a date and time of your choosing, and they will complete the process within typically 50 to 55 minutes, because they want to get it done in your application submitted. How does Social Security determine if I am a person who has a disability? They use a 5 sequential step process to decide if you're disabled. And I'm going to go through these with you. The first one they ask is, are you currently working? The best answer here is no. If, on the other hand, you are working, you should not be earning more than $1,260 per month of gross income. If you do, your case will not go to the next question. The next question they ask is, are your conditions severe? Have your conditions lasted 12 months or expected to last 12 months or end in death? And do your conditions, singularly or in combination, affect your basic work activities? And basic work activities are things like walking, sitting, standing, lifting, carrying, stooping, grasping, bending, concentrating, learning, remembering, following instructions, getting along with others, and more. And it should be noted that your medical providers are not qualified to decide if you are disabled, although we will welcome a letter and submit it when we receive it from your doctors. Only Social Security Administration examiners and judges are qualified to make the final decision. So after we've gone through the first two questions, are you working? No. Are your conditions severe? Yes. The third question that is asked is, are your conditions on Social Security's list of actual impairments? Now, when I started working with people, helping them apply for Social Security disability years ago, within the last 12 or 15 years, I would have clients prior to this time that had a child, an adult child with Asperger's. Well, Asperger's was not on Social Security's list of impairments. So what happened? The child was turned down. Well, subsequently, Social Security has made that much bigger and included the autism spectrum disorder, Asperger's as part of that. And we just refer to that now as Asperger's spectrum disorder. And we talk about the behavioral traits that this individual has so that we can win the case. And that is on the list of actual impairment. The fourth question Social Security asks is, if you have done work in the past, can you return to that work and continue to do that and earn $1,260 per month? If you can, you're not disabled. And then the catch-all question is, can you do any work in the national economy based on your previous work experience, transferable skills, training, education, and experience? And those would be jobs such as shredding paper, running a photocopier, an address labeler. A lot of these different types of jobs that we may not have a large amount here in the Cedar Rapids or neighboring areas, but they may in Timbuktu. And if there is a job there that you could do, Social Security would expect you to move to that area and do that work and earn $1,260. Again, here's the contact information for the offices. I recommend you call your local office and arrange a phone appointment. Now, what does the interview consist of? And what happens next? Let's discuss that. During the interview with Social Security will want you to furnish them with things such as your name, address, Social Security number, where you were born. They may ask for your birth or baptismal certificates, bank account numbers, names and addresses, phone numbers of your doctors, hospitals, clinics, therapists, people that you've contacted and know your information, including your disability condition, which can also include file information from the AEA. They're going to want to know the medications that you take, medical records that you already have, lab tests and results, summary of your work, and a copy of your recent W-2, if any. The initial phone interview usually takes no more than 60 minutes. If you complete it online, it can take longer. So it's your call. You can do either what you want to do. After the interview, this is what typically happens. Whoops. Sorry about that. Whoops. Right. Okay, I want to go to correct. After the interview, your application and file material will be sent to what's called the Disability Determination Service. The acronym is DDS, which is an office in Des Moines. And they are housed, these individuals that review the files, in the Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services office in locked doors. At DDS, an examiner will review your claim and file information and then write to your doctors and other entities that you've seen to get more information about you and your disability condition. The examiner will ask your doctors and other entities questions like what your medical condition is, when it began, how it limits your activities, what your doctor's medical tests have shown, what treatment you've received, AEA and special ed material. Social Security may also ask about your ability to do work-related activities, which are, as mentioned earlier, the walking, sitting, grasping, standing, bending, concentrating, learning, so on and so forth. If the Disability Determination Service requires more information, they may request what's called a Consultative Exam, a CE. Social Security will pay for the exam by a medical provider that they choose in order to get more information about your medical condition. And the consultative exam can be either a mental psych eval or a physical eval, or they can be both. And I talk with clients typically before they go for their CE. I want them to understand that the doctor they're going to meet with is not necessarily a doctor that they would be looking to for patient-doctor relationship. These doctors are paid by the Social Security Administration, and typically they do nothing more than exam for Social Security, workers' comp, insurance carriers. So I don't necessarily refer to them as the cream of the crop. These providers are also paid by Social Security, so while they're supposed to be impartial, they may favor Social Security. So it's important for the client to show this individual that they are a person that does have significant severe disabilities, so that is illustrated in the opinion of this doctor. There we go. Let's see. Having a little trouble with my, where do I need to go, Martha? I have Martha Hanley here helping me, and she's been a great benefit. Okay, so we'll back up just a little here. Thank you very much, Martha. Let's see, I'm going to try something different. Huh, thank you. Okay, very good. Thank you, Martha. All right, going on to the next slide. What happens after the interview? We're going to continue this. Finally, the Disability Determination Examiner will organize your app and file, and they're going to give it to a committee of professionals, such as doctors, therapists, vocational experts, that will review your claim and make a decision. The Disability Determination Service will send you a letter notifying you of their decision. If you are awarded SSI benefits, they will begin the following month and paid retroactively back to your protective filing date, and they pay it in increments, which I won't get into. If you are awarded SSDI, your back payment will be calculated and generated by the Baltimore office and paid retroactively to what's called your proven onset date of disability, which will go back as far as 1 year from your date of application minus 5 months, which I won't get into, but that's their calculation. If you are denied benefits, on the other hand, then the letter will also state how you can request reconsideration. If you are awarded SSI monthly benefits, remember on the slide we showed at the beginning, you cannot have more than $2,000 in countable resources. Otherwise, you will not receive a payment. And the countable resources include the cash you have, money you have in checking and savings, investments, CDs, a second car and its value, cash value of life insurance you own, if the death benefit is over $1,500, money in an IRA, 401k. Social Security will pull these together, add up the total, and if the accumulative total is over 2,000, they will not pay benefits. If you are denied benefits, then you can request reconsideration. If you receive the letter denying benefits from SSI or SSDI at the time of your initial application, it's because Social Security thinks, hey, we think you can do some type of work in the national economy and earn $1,260 of gross income per month. You have 60 days from the date of your denial letter to complete a request for reconsideration form, submitting it to Social Security stating that you are appealing this decision because you do not agree with their previous denial. At the reconsideration level, when you file your appeal for reconsideration, your claim will be sent back to the Disability Determination Service for review. The examiner will request that you furnish a new records that you have regarding your disability and provide current treatment dates. And then you must complete a form called the 3441BK. This is unnatural language again, appeal, which is an 8-page form asking if you have had medical treatment, new conditions that have arisen, or if your conditions have become more severe or less severe than when you previously applied. They will also send a form called an adult function report. And in that report, they want you to list everything you do from the time you get up in the morning until you go to bed, and how your disability conditions affect you during your daily activities. And oftentimes they will send one of these reports to someone who knows you well and can observe your disability condition. And that is called a third-party disability adult function report. Those reports should be completed and submitted, ultimately going to the DDS. And at this time, a new committee of professionals will review all the information you submit, and they'll make a formal decision. DDS will again send you another letter notifying you of their decision. If you're awarded SSI or SSDI benefits, congratulations. If you're denied, then we go to the next step, which is requesting a hearing with an administrative law judge. You have 60 days to go to that hearing level. You file a form, a 501U5, notifying Social Security that you are appealing the case. You fill out another 8-page function report, disability, submit that, and then having a little trouble here again. Pass that back to Martha. Okay. Okay, at the hearing level, once you submit the forms, it can take 12 to 18 months or even longer to get a hearing schedule, so you need to hang in there. At this stage, a claimant has the best chance of winning disability benefits because they actually can provide testimony to the administrative law judge why they cannot work and why they cannot earn $1,260 a month of gross income. Information you should know. The initial application level can take 3 to 6 months for a decision. 70% of individuals are turned down at this level. So we go to the next level. We ask for reconsideration. Takes another 3 to 6 months to make a decision. 85% are turned down. So if you look at this, you can see that an individual in general terms applying for Social Security, the first 2 stages are typically against you. And you need to work through both. And I recommend strongly encouraging clients to early on think about having an appointed representative work with you and take some of this burden off your shoulders. The hearing level can take 12 to 18 months and then another 3 to 6 months for the decision to be written. Nationally, 55% of the cases in front of an administrative law judge win. In Iowa, it's 48%. 52% are turned down. A final decision can take 2 years or even longer. But your best bet of winning is in front of an administrative law judge. Many people give up because they get overwhelmed, and that's kind of what Social Security does. A person who is a retiree that is going to receive retirement benefits, they're embraced by Social Security and they get their election. A person with a disability, unfortunately, has to work at it and sometimes go through obstacles in order to get benefits. Hiring an appointed representative, again, should be something that you should strongly consider and ask them, are you willing to help from the onset so that we can make this case go smooth? How is a representative paid for their work? Typically, they get 25% of the past due amounts that are generated. They are not paid on future payments, only on the past due amount. And if the representative loses your case, they're not paid anything. My office is a ticket to work provider. I'll have clients for whom we will win cases, and then they may want to go back to work. Our office is approved to help the client go back to work, and we understand what the rules are regarding income and what the income will do to affect their benefits package. And maybe sometimes we can help them become self-sufficient. 5 things you should know that can destroy your case. These are important. If you don't get your medical care that you need for your condition, that will tarnish your case. You don't keep your representative up to date. Clients move around, they get their phones lost. It's important that if you do have a representative assigned, that you keep him or her current about your current address and phone numbers. Do not miss deadlines or appointments that Social Security sets for you. Do not abuse drugs or alcohol. That's a big no-no. And then lastly, do not break the law or end up in jail, because these will harm your chances for winning your disability. That is an overview of my program on applying for Social Security and understanding the nuances. Questions from the audience? I'm happy to answer them. Diane, will you be taking charge here?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Frank. This is Rochelle, and I'll be fielding some questions to you. We just want to really thank you for some great information that you've given us on applying for Social Security disability benefits. And so I'm going to go ahead and field some of the questions in our question box. One of our first questions is, my son was approved on October 2nd, but we haven't received the letter of award of the decision. Should we be concerned that it's going to be since it's going on 3 weeks and have not received the letter of the award yet? If so, what should we do?
Okay, that's a great question. If you've been determined to be disabled and that you have an award, my recommendation is call the local office and tell them that you understand that you have been found disabled and awarded benefits. You'd like them to commence as soon as possible. And it's their duty to sort of orchestrate the payment or making sure you get the letter. Sometimes Social Security will have the letter, but they didn't send it out. They forgot to. So if you call the local office, they may obtain that in the record and they can print it off and send it out to you.
Okay, thank you. Our second question is, does SGA, substantial gainful activity, include parental support, child support after age 18?
Good question. All right, no, they don't. Substantial gainful activity, first of all, is just earning, okay? So that is the amount of money that you earn on a gross monthly basis. The child support payment and anything provided by parents for a child that is now age 18, person that's reached adulthood and is receiving SSI payments, because SSI payments are means tested, the child support can reduce the SSI payment, and the in-kind support provided by parents can also reduce the payment. So you have to look at that and determine what would be the best way to maximize that. And there are various strategies you can use, but the short answer is, if the person is going to be on SSI only, it will affect their benefits. It could, yes.
Okay. We have a question about ABLE accounts. So I'm not sure if you can answer that today or not, but it says, does Iowa ABLE accounts count as resources within that $2,000 limit?
That's a good question. No, fortunately it does not. And that is a federal mandate that's protected.
Okay, thank
Actually, you can have as much as $300,000 in an ABLE account and still get benefits. I've never known anybody that's got that kind of money, but you can.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Another question. When in the process should you have your lawyer involved? Will lawyers assist in filling out the forms for an individual with an intellectual disability?
I found over the years that typically representatives don't get involved at the onset because the odds are against them. They're going to be turned down. So they fill out all these forms for which they're bombarded. They submit them, and the case doesn't go anywhere. Unfortunately, if the case is won, which benefits the client, then the representative doesn't make any money. So if you're going to use an attorney, you don't have to use an attorney. You can use a representative that has knowledge and expertise in handling Social Security disability claims. But if you're going to use an attorney, ask them, will you help from the onset? And if they don't want to do it, then find a representative that will.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Another question. My 18-year-old son is adopted, and his adoption subsidy was extended until he turns 21 years of age. I have been told he is not eligible to receive SSI at this time. Do we just apply as soon as the subsidy ends?
Yes, and the reason the subsidy, if it is in excess of $850 per month, then that would probably negate the SSI payment. If it is just a couple $100 per month, then yes, it will reduce the SSI payment, but I would still go through the application process. I want to see if we can get the client eligible because, all right, granted they're going to get a lesser amount, but at least we've got them in the system. So when that adoption subsidy falls off, their payment will increase to the maximum. It's called the FIBR amount, federal benefit rate. Does that answer your question? I don't want to be too wordy, and I apologize if I am.
We'll consider, we'll just think that it does unless she puts another question in the box. So thank you. Another question comes from one of our listeners, and she asks, can someone on SSDI, SSI own a house or condo the way a retiree can, or do they have to liquidate that asset?
Okay, definitely. Homestead in America is sacred. So a person with a disability that is receiving SSDI, which is not means tested, so they don't care how much money you have. SSI, on the other hand, does, but a homestead is exempt.
Okay, great, thank you. And that previous question, the questioner said, yes, that was very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. You're welcome.
I'm still looking here, so be patient with me.
You bet.
It looks like we had a comment and a question. It says, I encourage people, so this must be a professional, I encourage people who have a mental health condition to seek a psychological evaluation for recent documentation. Is this actually helpful? And could this prevent a need for a CE evaluation, which is the consultative evaluation?
Okay, very good. That's a great question. And it can be extremely helpful because you're providing an eval that is done, and it's usually best if it's fairly current. Now, if it is an evaluation that was done on your child 15 years ago, then they may request another consultative exam and a psych eval. But sometimes that will suffice. I will say this, and this is something that I have trouble agreeing with, and that is Social Security, believe it or not, will place greater weight on a CE exam that they ordered and paid the psychiatrist or psychologist to perform over the client's treating psychiatrist or psychologist. And that's something that went into effect a few years ago. That you may want to note that, but I would definitely the evals are important. Did that answer your question?
Again, we'll wait and see if she replies, but I did have another one.
Okay.
So let's see here. Okay. In your opinion, is it easier to verify genetic-based disorders?
Good question. Yes, I mean, if you have a family history of individuals that have certain conditions, I would definitely use that in the argument to support the theory that this individual has this condition, other family members have, and I'd submit that information as well. Yes.
If your child receives SSI due to disability, do they still have difficulty getting it after age 18?
Good question. I'd say typically they can continue, but Social Security is going to look, is there any chance this person, now that they've reached the age of majority, can the individual do some type of work in the national economy and earn $1,260 per month of gross income? So that's why we do the application once they turn age 18. They want to review the case. Normally, they're good.
Okay, thank you. Regarding the extended adoption subsidy, did you say apply at age 18, even if they were extended to age 21?
Yeah, because what you're going to want to do, depending on the amount of money you get for the subsidy, when you call and make your appointment with Social Security, it may or may not fully reduce the SSI payment to zero. So maybe they'll get $100 per month or $50 a month, but they're at least in the system. And then when that subsidy stops, they go to the maximum benefit.
Okay, thank you. Is the examination mandatory? I have the idea that if you do a thorough job submitting your paperwork, you don't have to have an evaluation.
If the Disability Determination Service requires it and you don't show up, you'll be denied benefits.
Rochelle, do you see Megan Dotson's question?
I'm just kind of working down. If you want to go ahead, feel free.
She says if monthly SSI payment for someone not working is $783, why does the benefit per month go to $522 if they are in high school and live at home? Our explanation said because someone else providing food and shelter, which is us as parents. Why is that rate? Why that rate versus the $783?
Okay, good question. Maximum federal benefit rate is $783 a month. And the SSI payment is sort of looked at by the government as a payment of last resort. In other words, they don't want you to have any money, or if you do, you better have less than $2,000 of resources in order to qualify. If you're going to work and earn money, they use a formula that will reduce your SSI payment based on their calculation, which I understand, but I won't get into. If you are providing in-kind support for an individual receiving SSI, and that individual is over the age of 18, then Social Security will impose a 1/3 reduction on the SSI payment, because you are providing this for your child, and your child doesn't need $783. He only needs, or she only needs 500 and some odd dollars per month. So they use that 1/3 reduction rule to come into play to reduce the payment.
Okay, thank you. We have another question. We have a few more minutes left. If the child has a rare disorder not found in much literature, will it make it harder in the application process?
It could, but you would still want to proceed and build documentation as to why this disability condition prohibits the person from holding work and earning income at $1,260 per month. And I'll tell you what I do. I mean, I'll work with a client, I'll get 100 and some odd pages of medical records. I read every record, and then I will put together a narrative based on all that information I read. When I submit all those medical records to Social Security, because I don't know if they read it. So I know that we've got a chance they may at least read this one pager that I've got in addition to these 100 pages and help in the drawing a favorable decision. So if you are an individual that has a rare disorder, you would want to build that with any and all medical records that you can get and medical tests and treatment in order to provide substantiation that you cannot work and earn $1,260.
Okay, it's 12:58. We do have one more question I see that we can probably take time today, and then we'll have to share some information with our listeners. But if the child, no, it says what options are available if one doesn't agree with the CE's report? Can another CE be requested?
Yeah, but right. All you can do is you can get your own psych eval. However, as I mentioned earlier, Social Security puts much weight on the evaluation that they ordered out and paid for. And then you can get formal testimony from your treating physician if he or she will appear at a hearing
Oh, it seems like we've lost you, Frank, or can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can, but I do think we lost Frank. Thank goodness it lasted throughout the webinar till we lost him.
Yes. Okay. Well, it's 1 o'clock. I don't want to take up too much more of anyone's time, but I do want to thank Frank for the wonderful presentation, and I hope all of you have registered for next week's second part of Frank's presentation, Legal and Financial Rules of the Road, Estate Planning for Your Child with Disabilities. And as you can see on the screen, we have a few more following that each week, and I hope all of you are getting registered for all of the presentations. Just want to remind you, if you are a parent or a primary caregiver of a person with a disability, and you, especially 0 to age 21 years of age, and you'd like some experienced personal assistance, Child Health Specialty Clinics has family navigators available, and you can see the number here to contact Diane Brenneman, who will put you in contact with a navigator to help you with some of those personal needs that you might have. Also, we are also excited to be able to partner with the Family Educator Partnership, and here you can see we can contact Susan Selby and through either email or phone number here, and she will line you up with somebody to help you there. Again, each webinar we have a short evaluation and hope that you can complete that so that we have some great feedback from you. So in the future, we know what things that you would benefit from as topics and speakers. So again, I want to thank everybody for their attendance today. And if you have any other questions, please contact us and we will get that question to Frank or one of our facilitators and organizers, and we'll make sure we get those answered. So thank you again. Goodbye.